I've been building my own kingdom for everyone to see. It exists to keep me safe from harm, and it's intact to glorify me. Nobody helped me build this up. It was me and me alone. I've appointed myself as the king, and I've given myself the throne. But it turns out I'm no ruler, and I have no control. So I have decided to destroy it all. I'm tearing down the walls, kicking down the doors. Everything inside this kingdom is yours. 'Cause what I've made is worthless, and it cannot stand. Come and breathe some life into my empty, cold, dead hands. Down with the fickle king, away with this fantasy. You are the one I need. Death to the kingdom of me. Death to the kingdom of me. I should probably be frightened. This empire's all I know, but it always does more damage than good. I'm afraid it's gotta go. I know that I can't be trusted, 'cause I'm just a man. And if you hadn't given your life for me, a loser would be all that I am. You know they say just follow your heart. I'm afraid that's a load of trash. Your heart will take you down to deep, dark places where you feel like you'll never come back. So I'm coming out of the dark. This facade is... I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah, I woke up feeling like it might be a good day to get it done. That's right. Oh, the stadium is just like my second house. Now I'm two-tone talking, they can't shut my mouth. I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah, 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 yeah. I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up.
All right, it is Monday, August 25th, 2025, and roster cuts are a-coming. It is that time of year. We are officially less than 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season. Less than 2 weeks away from Titans at Broncos. For real, the preseason is over, and now we look ahead to the real deal coming up in less than 2 weeks, and the Titans have got to get this roster down to 53 guys by tomorrow. And so on today's podcast, we are predicting the final 53-man roster. I'm going to go through each player that I think is going to make the final 53, even the ones that are locks, even the ones that we know are obviously going to make it, and briefly talk about where I stand with each one of these guys. I think the final 53 is a little more clear-cut and obvious for the most part, but there are a couple of positions where it can get dicey. Don't forget waiver claims, guys that are going to get released by other teams. The Titans get first dibs on waivers, so the Titans are undoubtedly going to be bringing in some new faces, but you don't want to bring in too many new faces because you've established a culture with the guys you have. You've established, the team as is, and so you can bring in some new guys off waivers, but you don't want to bring in too many to where it's a totally new locker room. Wesley Barnes says Bishop Sankey is a lock. I mean, listen, you got to bring him back, and I do want to thank Wesley Barnes for this great polo shirt that he got at, I don't even know, the Foundry somewhere. But I'm breaking down the final 53. They got to have it down to 53 tomorrow. Cuts have already begun today. The Titans, not just for the Titans, everybody is cutting guys already. They got to get, I think it's by maybe 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, 3 o'clock Central. You got to have it down to 53. So let's just talk about it. We're breaking them all down. First spot on the roster, of course, going to number 1, Cam Ward, starting with the quarterbacks. Cam Ward, I'm not going to say too much about him because I've said everything I can say. I'm excited about him. Thought he looked good the other night in the limited time he played against Minnesota. He's a rookie. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some times where it's not exactly pretty, but I'm excited about Cam Ward. I'm excited about what he brings to the locker room, and I'm excited about watching him grow this season no matter what the record is. That's where the first roster spot goes. Staying with the quarterbacks, Brandon Allen, I think, I've seen some people suggesting that maybe Trevor Siemian could jump Brandon Allen to be the backup quarterback. I'm not buying it. I think because of Brandon Allen's history with Brian Callahan, and honestly, I know Brandon Allen, everybody be sure to click the like button, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube. Help me get into the algorithm. I think Brandon Allen started the preseason rough against Tampa Bay, but he did play better against Atlanta and Minnesota. So I think Brandon Allen, as I've said before, he is who he is. I mean, he's not going to set the world on fire. He is a lower mid-tier backup quarterback, but I think the Titans only take 2 quarterbacks. I don't see the point in taking Ward, Allen, and Siemian. I think Trevor Siemian can be the emergency guy on the practice squad or whatever, but I don't see any need to take all 3. So I've got him taking the 2 quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Brandon Allen, to the final 53. Let's get into some running backs here. Spot number 3 obviously goes to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, I think, at least early on in the season, is going to get a pretty good workload because of injuries to other running backs that have already happened. But I think Tony Pollard very quietly had a very, very good season for the Titans last year on a very, very bad Titans team. And I think Tony Pollard, we've seen a very limited amount of him in the preseason, but I think Tony is going to come in and have to be the workhorse early on, but they can't have him doing that all season long. At the number 4 spot, the second running back, I've got Tyjae Spears. You know how I feel about Spears. I'm very iffy on him because of his injuries. I think he's a tremendous athlete. I think he could be a very explosive player, but the guy just can't stay healthy. I mean, first preseason game he got hurt, so I'm a little iffy on Spears. If he can come back and be healthy and stay healthy, that would be great, but he's going to make the roster. It's a high ankle sprain. I doubt he'll play against the Broncos in week 1, may not even play against the Rams in week 2, but by, week 3, I think they'll work him back in. But I don't think it's bad enough to start him on IR. It could be, but I don't think it's bad enough to start Spears on IR. I think he'll just be taking a roster spot right off the bat. Spot number 5, I'm going to give it to the rookie Kalel Mullings, who also got hurt against the Vikings, I believe, on a kickoff the other night. Kalel Mullings, I really like what we saw from him this preseason, so I hope his injury is not bad. I don't think it is, because they indicated it was not that serious of an injury. And while Julius Chestnut had a very good preseason, he always does, Kalel Mullings, he's a rookie. I think there's something there with his size. I'm more intrigued by him, and so I really think he makes it. And I think that, with the injuries, it gets a little weird because Spears probably not going to play week 1. Who knows if Mullings would be able to play week 1. That gets a little weird. And so the 6th roster spot, I'm taking 4 running backs, and I'm going to say Julius Chestnut makes the initial 53-man roster. Here's where I stand with this. If Kalel Mullings had stayed healthy and if Tyjae Spears had stayed healthy, I don't think Julius Chestnut would make the final 53. But as it stands right now, with Spears and Mullings both being iffy, especially Spears with a more severe injury, I think initially Julius Chestnut is going to make it and probably play a good bit against Denver next Sunday because, obviously Pollard's going to be the front man, but assuming Spears is not able to play in that game, Mullings is hurt, but even if he's in there, he's a rookie. You want to have a more surefire thing. Julius Chestnut always plays well in the preseason, so he had a good preseason, especially against Minnesota the other night with the hurdle and the nice run. So I think Julius Chestnut will make the initial 53 unless he just does unbelievable in the limited time he gets. I don't think it'll last. I think eventually once the other running backs are healthy, Chestnut will probably go to the practice squad or something. But initially, I've got Julius Chestnut. I've got all four running backs, Pollard, Spears, Mullings, and Chestnut all making it. Now let's talk about some wide receivers. At spot number 7, of course, it's Calvin Ridley. I mean, not much else to say here. He's the go-to guy for Cam Ward, the Cam Calvin connection, which is one of my favorite shows as a kid. I don't know. It just sounds like a show you'd watch as a kid. Calvin Ridley, I mean, I just hope he can stay healthy because he's the go-to guy. He's far and away the number one wide receiver on this team. I just hope he can stay healthy, hope he can stay well, and I'm excited about him and Cam together. But let's talk about the rest of the wide receivers. Up next, I've got Tyler Lockett. I mean, Tyler Lockett is who he is. He takes the 8th roster spot. I mean, you're going to get what you're going to get from him. At this point in his career, he's not a needle mover. He's not going to put this team over the hump. But hopefully he can be a good leader in the locker room. He can be a good culture guy. And hopefully, can maybe be a reliable target on 3rd and short and maybe in goal to go situations. I don't think you're going to have many explosive plays from Tyler Lockett, but he's a lock to make the roster, no pun intended, a lock. The next spot goes to Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson, after that Atlanta game, everybody was ready to just do away with Van Jefferson, but after the Minnesota game, he kind of tore it up the other night. He had a good week of practice last week. He was going to make the roster anyway, but after the other night, I think it's absolutely a lock, Van Jefferson. And hey, if Van Jefferson could be a reliable wide receiver 4 on this team, then you will have gotten everything you need out of Van Jefferson. If he's able to just make a few reliable 3rd and short catches over the course of most of these games, with a few touchdowns over the course of the year, you will have gotten everything out of Van Jefferson you need. Just realized that the graphic that I have on the screen says 9-11. So there's that. Never forget. Can't believe it's been that long since it happened. Number 10. Now that we've gotten off on that depressing tangent, Alec Iomanner. This is the guy that I'm hoping can become the number 2. This is the guy that I'm hoping can move up to be a number 2 behind Calvin. I don't think they'll view him in that way right off the bat, but I'm hoping over the course of the season he will work his way into being the number 2 wide receiver behind Calvin Ridley. I've always been more intrigued by him than Chimere Dike just because of his size, speed, ability to go up and get it. We saw some of it in the preseason. He was kind of coming along, nearly had a touchdown the other night, had the big explosive play against Atlanta in week 2 of the preseason. I'm really excited about him, and he's the one I'm really looking at and saying he's got to step up. He's got to be the guy to really move on up the ranks and get to that number 2 spot behind Calvin Ridley. But time will tell, but I remain very intrigued by him. Number 11, Chimere Dike. He didn't show much in the preseason. They mostly tried these cute little screens with him. I think he's going to be a work in progress, but ultimately if you can get some Khalif Raymond type production out of Chimere Dike where he's just the speed guy that can beat you deep and you can chunk it to him, that's fine. I still just don't view him in the same way that I view Alec Iomanner. I view Iomanner as the guy who could really move up the ranks. I see Chimere Dike, and this sounds awful, it's not meant to be. I just kind of see him as a one-trick pony. He's fast. He can haul it down the field, and you can throw it up to him. I just don't think Chimere Dike is going to be the guy you're looking at on 3rd and 10 to to, hit a stick route and, power through some guys to get to the first down marker. I just don't think that's going to be him, but he's a lock to make the roster. They took him at the top of the 4th, so he's a lock to get in. Number 12, Bryce Oliver, and I've got to give it to Bryce Oliver. Bryce Oliver has turned into a lock to make this team, and you got to admit, if he's able to really show something this season, throw him in the same boat as Io Manor and Chimere Dike. He's only a year 2 guy. He spent most of year 1 on the practice squad. He's going to be a lock to make the roster. Hopefully he can make a big impact on special teams as well. But Bryce Oliver, I think, if he gets good production with the limited amount of snaps he's going to get, you could see Bryce Oliver move up the ranks. He's a great story. Bryce Oliver's a great story. Came in last year, had a good preseason, spent most of the season on the practice squad, got some time in regular season games because other guys got hurt, and now he comes in year 2, and he is now considered a lock to make the 53-man roster. Good for him. Good story, and I hope Bryce Oliver can really turn it on and contribute this year. I've got one more wide receiver making the initial 53, but it's not who you're going to want. It's James Prochet is my 7th wide receiver making the final 53. It is not Xavier Restrepo. I've made it clear the last few weeks. I do not envision that Xavier Restrepo is going to make this final 53-man roster. They just, they haven't even given him any really good playing time in the preseason games. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So number 13 on the roster spots goes to number 13, James Prochet, who has apparently emerged as the best option to be the punt returner. And so I think that's the main thing Prochet is going to bring to the table is he's going to be the punt returner, probably the kick returner. And that's kind of what it's going to be for him. I don't think he brings much to the table in terms of being a wide receiver, but I do think because of what he brings to special teams, that's what's going to ensure that James Prochet makes this roster, especially since I saw the report before I went live that the Titans have officially cut Jaquan Jackson, which remains one of the most baffling things that I saw this preseason, that they gave Jaquan Jackson so many looks at kick returner and punt returner when they, everybody knew Prochet was the front runner to do that. And then they just cut Jaquan Jackson as expected today. So that's just a little weird to me looking in hindsight. But yeah, I think James Prochet is going to make it because of what he brings to special teams. Let's get into the tight ends. Chig Okonkwo. Big year for Chig Okonkwo. Chig has proven that he's not much of a blocker. He's not a very good blocking tight end. I think they need to treat Chig Okonkwo like he's a wide receiver. He's built more like a wide receiver. He's got the speed of kind of more like a wide receiver than a tight end. Chig Okonkwo is a lock to make the roster, but this is what, year 4 for him? He hasn't been as good as he was his rookie season since his rookie season. So with Gunnar Helm coming in and everything, this is a pretty critical year for Chig Okonkwo in terms of his future with the Titans. And again, you talk about experienced guys that can help Cam Ward. Chig Okonkwo could be a reliable target for Cam Ward if he's able to get it together. Last year he was kind of just, he's fine. That's kind of what he's been the last 2 years. He had a really good rookie year, and then his last 2 years he's just been fine. Not bad, not great, just fine. They need him to be better than fine. And so, because if not, he could very well be surpassed as tight end 1 on this roster, courtesy of the 15th man on my 53-man roster, Gunnar Helm. This is the tight end that everybody's excited about. The rookie from Texas coming in had a great touchdown catch against Atlanta a couple of weeks ago in the preseason game, and a lot of people are speculating that Gunnar Helm could become tight end 1 on this team, and I agree. He's a better blocker. We saw some of the blocking schemes against Minnesota the other night. Gunnar Helm did a great job. I think that Gunnar Helm is a more complete tight end than Chig Okonkwo. He's not as fast as Chig Okonkwo, maybe not as explosive as Chig Okonkwo, but I like his size. I feel like hopefully you want to talk about somebody that could emerge as a reliable target for Cam Ward. I would love nothing more than for Gunnar Helm to become that, especially on those 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, mid-range 3rd downs when you just need somebody to get to the sticks, get open, and power through and make a big catch. Gunnar Helm could be the guy. I've got one more tight end making the roster, and I'm giving it to David Martin Robinson. I thought about giving it to Josh Wiley, but I just don't see anything that tells me that this team really believes in Josh Whyle. I think they believe in David Martin Robinson more than Josh Whyle. In fact, I think David Martin Robinson has more size. I think that they were very intrigued by David Martin Robinson last year, but they kind of felt obligated to give Whyle the reps. If they can get anything in a trade for Josh Whyle, I think that would be phenomenal, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're just going to cut him. And I think based on what I've seen this preseason, they like David Martin Robinson more than they like Josh Whyle, and that's fine. To me, I think Josh Whyle is just a not as good Gunnar Helm. So I don't see the reason in keeping both of them. I think David Martin Robinson brings the speed and size, blocking ability, things like that. So I think David Martin Robinson's going to be the third tight end. And now let's get into the offensive line, the centers. Lloyd Cushenberry looks like he's going to be ready to go week 1 to start center. That's great news for the Tennessee Titans. He had a good season last year, ultimately obviously got hurt, worked his way back from a tough injury. I hope him coming back from that injury doesn't prove to be too difficult. But Lloyd Cushenberry looks like he's going to be ready to go, and I'm excited to get him back in the starting lineup. And I think the other center that's going to make it to the roster is Corey Levin. Corey Levin, he's done a very good job for the Titans this preseason, and really any time that the Titans have ever had to call on Corey Levin's number to come in and do something for him, he does it. He does a good job for the Titans. And so I think that that's a good backup center. That's a good backup center to have it. A guy like Corey Levin, if Lloyd Cushenberry gets hurt again, I like my chances with Corey Levin. You could do a lot worse in terms of backup offensive linemen than Levin. Let's talk about the guards. Peter Skoronski, of course, is going to be the starting left guard. I'm excited about him. I think he had a great preseason, looked awesome against Minnesota the other night. First-round pick from 2023. For some reason, people soured on him in year 2 or so. I don't know why, but I think Peter Skoronski was one of the best players on the team last year, and I think he could be the best offensive lineman on this football team. And I'm not kidding you. I think Peter Skoronski is a dog. And so I'm very excited about watching him this year. Other guards, Kevin Zeitler, and that's the best picture I could find of him. But Kevin Zeitler, obviously starting right guard. Obviously, with his age, the main thing you worry about with him is health, but I think he's reliable. He's a veteran, brings good veteran leadership, not just to the offensive line, but to the locker room as well. I like this pickup. I liked it when they made it. And so Kevin Zeitler, I'm excited to watch him at right guard. The 21st spot on the roster goes to the rookie Jackson Slater. While we're talking about guards, I'm excited for this young guy because he doesn't have to come in and immediately start. He doesn't have to come in and immediately be thrown to the wolves. He's going to get to sit behind Zeitler and Skoronski and Levin and Cushenberry and watch all of these guys and get to learn the ropes. And who knows, by next season, if Zeitler doesn't come back or if Zeitler retires or something, you might have your next right guard right there in Jackson Slater. So I'm very excited for this young guy that not only is he here, but the fact that he gets to just kind of ease his way in and not have to rush out there. But I think he's a lock to make the roster. And the last guard I've got making it is Blake Hance, who they picked up in free agency from Jacksonville. I think Blake Hance really played well. Had to start a lot of games in the preseason for them this preseason because I don't think Kevin Zeitler played at all the preseason. So I think Blake Hance did a good job. And I think, again, kind of like I said about Corey Levin, it's hard to find good depth pieces on the offensive line. You could probably do a lot worse than Corey Levin and Blake Hance on the interior offensive line as backups. If guys get hurt, you could do worse. So I think Blake Hance is a lock to make the roster. Looking at the tackles, Dan Moore is the 23rd spot. You know how I feel about Dan Moore. I'm still skeptical about Dan Moore. $50 million. He didn't exactly play great in Pittsburgh, but now he's here. Didn't do anything disastrous in the preseason, but he was going against backups. We'll see how he does in week 1. He's the one I'm most worried about on the starting 5 by far. We'll see, but obviously, he's going to do it. He's going to be the left tackle. And then at number 24, the 24th spot goes to J.C. Latham, who has just totally changed his look. He's moved over to right tackle. I'm excited for him. I think he'll fit in better there. I think he'll do better there. I think he'll be more comfortable there. And I'm glad to hear that J.C. Latham, last year's first-round pick, is becoming a more vocal leader. He's getting more vocal. He's getting a little more swagger. He's getting into fights with Jeffrey Simmons. So hopefully J.C. Latham in year 2 can emerge as a real leader on that offensive line. I've got one more tackle making the final 53, and this is my last offensive player. It's Oli Udoh. Oli Udoh, I think, has emerged as a pretty reliable backup tackle for them. They played a lot of him in the preseason, and we heard that he had a good preseason in terms of practice and training camp. I think the Titans really like this guy, and I think he's a lock to make the roster in a backup tackle type role. And so that's my 25 offensive players. I've got 25 out of 53 spots go into the offense. I know some people mentioned Jalen Duncan. Do you give a roster spot to Jalen Duncan? I don't think they're going to. I think Jalen Duncan, if you can get him back on the practice squad, that would be great. But, Jalen Duncan, initially there were reports that he was doing really good at practice, but didn't really see anything in the actual preseason games that would get you excited about him. And I also don't think that Jalen Duncan, like that initial momentum that he had when all those great reports were coming out about him at practice, it just kind of died down, and it just kind of felt like Oli Udoh kind of became the tackle, the backup tackle that they really started liking. So I don't think Jalen Duncan's going to make it. I've seen some people predict that they think he will. I don't think Jalen Duncan will make it, though. Let's move to the defense with the 26th spot going to Jeffrey Simmons. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons is a dog. He's going to have to be the leader of this defense by far. He's one of the only experienced players on the defense, and hopefully he can rally the troops. But Jeffrey Simmons, I'm glad to have him back. As far as the other interior defensive tackles, number 27th, the 27th spot on the roster, of course, goes to T'Vondre Sweat, second-year player who I'm a little worried about. I'm a little worried about a sophomore slump with this guy because he had a really good rookie season. The problem is he hasn't practiced in weeks. How good of a shape is he in? Is he ready to go? Is he going to be ready? I know Brian Callahan said T'Vondre Sweat is looking like he will be ready for week 1. He had his tonsils taken out. He's been recovering from that. I just hope that not getting those preseason reps and not getting those practice reps over the last few weeks, I just hope it doesn't set him back too much. But obviously, because of their interior defensive line and the fact that it's kind of a wasteland once you get past Simmons and Sweat, they're going to have Sweat be really, really good. The next spot, another defensive tackle, it's Sebastian Joseph-Day. Obviously a lock to make it. The Titans got good production out of Sebastian Joseph-Day last year. I hope they can get some of that this year. He's absolutely behind Simmons and Sweat. He's the next tier down in terms of defensive tackles on this team. He's the most reliable that they've got other than Simmons and Sweat. Up next, a guy that's kind of emerged, James Lynch, on the interior defensive line. James Lynch is a good example of how preseason can be beneficial, because 3 weeks ago, I don't think anybody would have had James Lynch as a lock to make this 53-man roster, but he's played so well in the preseason, had a great play against Minnesota that resulted in an interception the other night. I remember he had a great play, I think, against Tampa Bay back in week 1 where he drove his offensive lineman back into the backfield, tackled the running back. I think James Lynch is a lock to make this roster, and kudos to him. That's how preseason is beneficial, is a guy like this that was probably not in the cards to make the final 53 initially. Now he is, because he had a really good preseason, and on a team that's not very deep at this position, opportunity presented itself and he took advantage. Good for him. And then for the last interior defensive lineman spot, I've got it as a waiver claim. I know that may be a cop-out. I've got the picture of Borgonzi there. I think the Titans are going to they may throw a name out there on the initial 53 that is just a guy that's currently on the roster, but I think ultimately they're going to hit waivers and get another interior defensive tackle. I don't know who it's going to be. You have to wait and see who gets released from other teams, but I think the Titans are going to look to have another interior defensive tackle picked up on waivers. I don't think there's anybody on this roster currently that would merit giving them a roster spot to come in and be a rotational defensive tackle. You need somebody that's currently on another roster somewhere else that could probably give you better production than anybody you've got. So I think the Titans' fifth interior defensive tackle is going to be picked up off of waivers. But like I said about waivers, the Titans have first dibs on waivers, but you don't want to bring in too many new guys to where it feels like you're just creating a whole new locker room, whole new culture. We'll continue to talk about that. Let's move to outside linebackers, defensive ends, whatever you want to call them. Draymond Jones, I think if I had to bet, probably the best edge rush guy on the team. And all due respect to Draymond Jones, that's not particularly a good thing that he's the best, but it's one of the positions where the Titans are weakest. Draymond Jones, I liked that pickup when they made it in the offseason. In fact, that was one of my favorite free agent moves that the Titans made. Draymond Jones, they're going to need him to be good. They're going to need him to be very good. They're going to need him to be better than you even think. Up next, the 32nd spot on the 53 goes to Arden Key. Arden Key's good. He's a good rotational outside linebacker, but the problem is he's going to have to be a starter, and you could argue he may be the best pass rusher on the team. Arden Key, there's nothing wrong with him, but it's not like he's elite. He brings some character and some life to the defense, and that's good, but the Titans are going to need Arden Key to have, his best year that he's ever had if they're going to really make some noise on defense. And then up next, Femi Oladejo, that's the 33rd spot on the 53. Of course, he's going to make it. I'm excited about his progress so far in the preseason. He's going to be a work in progress. He's not going to be a starter right off the bat, but hopefully, as the season rolls on, Femi Oladejo can turn into something for the Titans to where you get to the end of the season and say, hey, we got something with that guy. But, of course, he's going to make the initial 53. The 34th spot, sticking with outside linebackers, this is where it gets a little dicey for me. So I'm giving it to Jihad Ward, who had a sack, I think, against Tampa Bay in the preseason. But these last two outside linebacker spots with Jihad Ward and the next guy I'm going to mention, especially with the next guy, these two just feel so replaceable. It feels like you could get anybody off of waivers and maybe get better production than these last two. You're just seeing how weak the outside linebacker edge rush room is for the Titans. It's tough. And initially, yeah, I've got Jihad Ward making the 53, but I don't look at Jihad Ward and see like, wow, that guy is going to help us a lot. Because then the 35th spot, I'm giving it to Ali Gay. But, I don't know. I made this last night before I went to bed, and I don't know if it's now that I've slept on it and had this morning to think about it, but it's just like, you mean to tell me there's nobody on waivers that you can pick up that can give you better production than Ali Gay? So I don't know. I get you don't want to bring in too many guys off of waivers because you don't just want to have this whole influx of new guys coming in. But, there's got to be somebody that's about to get released by the Eagles or some other stacked roster out there that's just got to get rid of some good players. You can't tell me there's not somebody out there that can give you better production than both Ali Gay and Jihad Ward. These guys aren't really going to make that big of an impact. So I've got these two, Jihad Ward and Ali Gay, making the 53, but I think that could turn into somebody else off a waiver claim at some point, because I just feel like there's got to be somebody better out there. Let's talk about inside linebackers. Cody Barton, obviously. I'm very excited about Cody Barton. That's a player that I've gotten a lot more excited about over the course of training camp in the preseason. I love his vocal leadership. Seems like such a smart player. You saw some of the plays he made against Minnesota the other night. He's sharp. He's very sharp up here. And the Titans need that on their defense, but they especially need it at inside linebacker because they're so young there outside of Cody Barton. I think Cody Barton could be kind of nasty for the Titans. You could look back on that and say that was an excellent free agent pickup for the Titans this offseason because I really like this guy. I'm excited about him, especially going against his former team week 1. Maybe he'll be able to help us some there. Up next, Cedric Gray. Cedric Gray, I think, had a great preseason. I think you saw exactly what you wanted to see out of Cedric Gray, really from start to finish. He got started off a little rocky against Tampa Bay in the first one, but against Atlanta and Minnesota especially, I thought he was just fantastic. And I would be very excited. That's a young player I'd be very excited about. But I don't know if he's going to start because I think I'm going to give the edge there to the 38th spot on my final 53, which is James Williams. I think James Williams, beside Cody Barton, I think he's going to get the initial nod as the starter. But I think Cedric Gray and James Williams are both going to get plenty of time in there. I like James Williams. I like the fact that he has transitioned from safety to inside linebacker so quickly and taken to it so well. I think we saw some of the traits that James Williams had last season that were like, hey, that guy could really be something. Well, he kind of feels like he's turning into that. And hopefully between James Williams and Cedric Gray, we can get some good production at that other linebacker spot. Beside Cody Barton, I think the Titans will have one more inside linebacker, but again, I went with the cop-out answer. I think it's going to be a waiver claim. I think the Titans need another veteran inside linebacker because you've got two young guys in Cedric Gray and James Williams. I think you need some semblance of stabilization and veteran depth there at that linebacker position in case just both of those guys are struggling. So I think the Titans will pick up another inside linebacker on waivers once people start getting released today and tomorrow. Let's talk about corners. The 40th spot, the infamous 40th spot on the roster goes to the guy that was just mentioned in the chat, L'Jarius Sneed. So many question marks surrounding L'Jarius Sneed. His health, his whether he's going to be able to get good production, because last time we saw him, he was getting torched by Michael Pittman. Is he going to be game ready? Is he going to be in good shape? What's the status on his legal trouble outside of football? There's a lot of question marks surrounding L'Jarius Sneed, but I'm telling you, the need for Sneed is real. The Titans need L'Jarius Sneed because this secondary doesn't have a lot of room for error. There's not a lot of room for, injuries and, guys being in and out of the lineup. The Titans need L'Jarius Sneed at full health consistently because they need Kansas City Chief L'Jarius Sneed because the secondary is very young without him. Speaking of young, the next corner at the 41st spot out of the final 53 is Jarvis Brownlee. I'm very excited about him. Got to stay away from the stupid penalties. I thought it was a bad call the other night, but body slamming the guy, they're going to call it every time. We saw Jarvis Brownlee got a little too aggressive at times last year, so he's got to rein that in. But I like his attitude. I like what he brings to the table. And he got more playing time last year than we would have thought because of all the injuries to Awuzie and Sneed. I'm very excited about Jarvis Brownlee. Of course, any year two player is going to be a question mark, but he's going to get his opportunity, and I hope he makes the most of it. The next spot goes to Raj McCreary, who is in a contract year. And, sometimes that puts a little extra fire under players to really prove that they deserve that next contract. He's mainly a slot corner. They're going to need him to play well. I mean, behind Sneed, he's the next veteran player on this secondary. So, and Raj usually stays healthy. So hopefully McCreary can be kind of a stable piece for that secondary. Darrell Baker at the 43rd spot, I think he's a lock to make the roster. I thought Darrell Baker, who they picked up on waivers last year, I actually thought Darrell Baker played really well for the Titans, considering what you would expect from a guy that got picked up on waivers. I actually don't mind Darrell Baker as a depth piece to come in and get some playing time. The thing is, when you look at Sneed, Brownlee, McCreary, that's not a bad lineup of corners. Like, I look at that and I'm like, hey, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's just all the question marks surrounding Sneed makes it like, ugh. But let's take a look at the rest of the secondary. The 44th spot, I'm giving it to the rookie Marcus Harris. Little undersized, and I don't think he's going to play a whole lot on defense unless a lot of guys get hurt, in which case we're up a creek without a paddle anyway. But Marcus Harris, I mean, listen, he played hard this preseason, and he's kind of hopefully in the same position that Jackson Slater is on offense. He can come in, he can learn, he can hopefully watch these older guys do it and spend this year just kind of learning the ropes, and then maybe he can contribute next year. I think I've got one more corner making it. Yeah, so I love that picture of him. I got him taking Gabe Judy Lawley, but I could also see this being another waiver situation, because I think Gabe Judy Lawley can play some slot corner if McCreary were to get hurt or need a water break or something. But I don't know. It's the same thing as what I said about Ali Gay. If you're going to take Gabe Judy Lawley to the 53, you mean tell me there's not somebody that's about to get released from somewhere else that could give you better production than Gabe Judy Lawley? I don't know. I think initially that's whose name's going to be there, but I think that one could change to a waiver claim as well. Now let's talk about safeties. We're almost there. The 46th spot, of course, goes to Amani Hooker. Good old reliable Amani Hooker at safety. He's one of the, I think him and Simmons are like the two OGs on this team. Man, I like Amani Hooker. He's been a reliable player over the years. I'm glad to have him back, and this could be it. This could be his final run with the Titans this season, and I think he's a player you might miss when he leaves because he's just been reliable over the years. He's always seems to come through and be where he needs to be, so I'm glad to have Amani Hooker back, especially on a young defense. Let's talk about the rest of these safeties. The 47th spot goes to Xavier Woods, who they picked up in free agency, just a reliable veteran, durable safety. I don't think he's going to be offensive with his play, but I don't think he's going to light the world on fire either. The 48th spot goes to Quandre Diggs. I'm glad to have Quandre Diggs back for a couple of reasons. Number one, you got the veteran leadership. I think he's related to Cam Ward, so I think that could be good. He was vocal that he wanted to be on the team with Cam Ward. But also, if you remember back before Quandre Diggs got hurt last season, he was playing some good football for the Titans. So I think as a rotational depth guy at safety, I think Quandre Diggs could be I'm glad they brought him back. And I hope he can get back to playing the way that he was before he got hurt, because he was actually playing some pretty good football for the Titans. I got two more safeties making it. I got Kevin Winston, the rookie. I don't think Kevin Winston's going to contribute very much initially because he's working his way through the injury. I think it could be similar to what we saw with Cedric Gray last year, where it just takes him a little bit. But I'm very excited about this guy once he's able to get in there. Very excited about Kevin Winston, and I think he could be a major player for the Titans in years to come. And then I got one more safety making it, and it is Mike Brown, mainly for special teams reason. I don't expect, unless there's a lot of injuries, I don't expect Mike Brown playing much safety for the Titans, but I think Mike Brown could be a really good special teams guy for the Titans because of what he brings to special teams. I do think Mike Brown will initially make the 53. And then with the final three spots, it's special teams guys. Morgan Cox, again, one of the longest tenured Titans. Death, taxes, and Morgan Cox as the long snapper for the Tennessee Titans. Number 52, Johnny Hecker, the punter. Not the most stellar preseason ever, but we'll see. I mean, Johnny Hecker, that's a name you've heard for a long, long, long time. He's been in the league a while. And then finally, with the final spot, it is Joey Sly, the kicker, who hit a 63-yard field goal the other night. And, maybe he also had a double doink that went in from 53 yards. So, he missed an extra point against Atlanta. I was souring on him, but much like Van Jefferson, he kind of recovered against Minnesota. So, to recap, here's my 53. Looking at the offense, Ward, Allen, Pollard, Spears, Mullings, Chestnut, Ridley, Lockett, Van Jefferson, Ellick, Io Manor, Chimray, DK, Bryce Oliver, James Prochet, Chigakonkwo, Gunnar Helm, David Martin Robinson, Cushenberry, Levin, Skoronski, Zeitler, Slater, Hance, Moore, Latham, and Udo. Those are my 25 guys making the final 53 for offense. Again, I know some of you are holding out hope for Xavier Restrepo. I just don't think it's going to happen. The running back situation is weird with the injuries, but I think those are the four names you'll see. Unless they do something like put Spears on IR for the first few weeks, they could do that, but I just think it's going to be those four. Maybe they'll go Wiley instead of Martin Robinson, but I doubt it. And then on defense, these are where I really have the question marks in terms of waivers. Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, James Lynch, Sebastian Joseph Day, and somebody off of waivers. Outside linebacker, Arden Key, Draymond Jones, Femi Oladejo, Jihad Ward, and Ali Gay. I think at least one of those outside linebacker names could turn into a waiver. Inside linebacker, Cody Barton, Cedric Gray, James Williams, and somebody off of waivers, a veteran player. Cornerback, Snead, Brownlee, Roger McCreary, Daryl Baker, Marcus Harris, and Gabe Judy Lawley, but I could also see Gabe Judy Lawley becoming a waiver. Somebody off waivers. I guess it just depends who they're waiting to see who becomes available. Safety, Amani Hooker, Xavier Woods, Quandre Diggs, Kevin Winston, and Mike Brown. And then special teams, Morgan Cox, Johnny Hecker, and Joey Sly. That is My 53-man roster prediction. Man, my mouth is dry. I've been talking, nonstop getting through those 53 for the last 40 minutes. But that's it. The final 53 comes out tomorrow, and I will, of course, have a video out about my initial thoughts on that whenever it is released. Speaking of released, let me check Twitter real quick just to see if anything new has come out, if the Titans have released anybody else. Just Jaquan Jackson. So, if you're looking for hope about Restrepo, he has not been released yet. They've not been released yet. The Titans are actively, they've released 16 people so far. You know, Xavier Restrepo's not one of them. So if you're holding out hope for Restrepo, maybe you're a believer in that conspiracy theory that says the Titans intentionally didn't show a lot of Restrepo this preseason because they didn't want people to have film on him. He's the secret weapon. I don't know. We'll see. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for joining. And I'll be back tomorrow on the channel in some form talking about the final 53-man roster cuts. God bless you, everybody. Tighten up. Bye.